Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 17th of February, now it's 15 past 2, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There is plenty of very significant developments and news that I like to share with you. But before I start, let me once again emphasize how grateful I am for your attention and support, including donations, of course. Your help and kindness truly means a lot to me, so thank you very much. That being said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with the Ukrainian special military operation. And we have RIA Novosti's report here, which says that Kiev did order civilians in Bakhmut to withdraw from city immediately. Let me show you on the map this area. And as you know, we had reports yesterday and day before that Zelensky's regime did start evacuation of some manufacturing plants and governmental offices from Chesov Yar. And we also learned a few days ago that Zelensky's regime blocked entering to Bakhmut for journalists, volunteers and civilians. And now we are, and also archives of government offices were taken away from Bakhmut. And today we are learning that Kiev is ordering civilians to leave Bakhmut immediately. And as I said previously, all these developments are indicating to me that despite public statements from Zelensky and his associates that they will stay in Bakhmut until the end, I think they are preparing ground for withdrawal of forces, and not just from Bakhmut, but from Chesov Yar too. This may not happen in 1 day or 1 week's time, but all these developments are, at least how I see it, all these developments are indicators that Zelensky's regime is considering withdrawal of forces from this region, and they have good reason to withdraw forces from here because, as I said yesterday, if Russia manages, for example, some pincer movement in this direction, then Bakhmut and Chesov Yar, both these cities may end up being encircled. And we are talking about some 15 to 20 brigades that are located or stationed in this area. And it's going to be a huge blow for Ukrainian forces, of course. Let's continue with the news, and we have still RIA Novosti is reporting that in Donetsk direction, according to Russian Defense Ministry, only in Donetsk direction, Ukrainian forces lost 200 soldiers, up to 200 soldiers killed in action in previous 24 hours. 2 armored personnel carriers, 2 other military vehicles, and 2 howitzers, D-30 and D-20. Also, in direction of Avdiivka, ammo depot was targeted of 36 Brigade of Marinko of Ukraine's armed forces. And this is happening only in single direction. And in general, when I'm analyzing data from Defense Ministry and daily updates, it seems like Ukrainian side at least losing 500 soldiers, 300 to 500 soldiers every day, every single day on the front lines, which is catastrophic, of course. That's why they are trying to, catch so many people on the streets and just everywhere they can, and send them on the front line. Let's continue This is TASS news agency, which is reporting that according to Kuleba, foreign minister of Ukraine. And by the way, let me. I just remember that when it comes to evacuation of civilians, they should listen. This is a time when they should definitely listen to Kiev, because just look at it. I did share this on my Telegram channel, this footage. And as you know, Russian side many times stated that Ukrainians using civilians as a shield. And one more proof that this is fact, this is true. Just look at it, how close to civilian building are stationed this armored personnel carrier, for example. This is BMP 1 or 2. It's hard to say. I'm not military expert after all. But I do believe that if civilians in Bakhmut and Chisov Yar also have opportunity to leave those cities, they should do it. Definitely. And when it comes to this topic, according to RIA Novosti, up to 6,000 civilians may be in Bakhmut right now. So it's, of course, huge number. So they should definitely, huge number, and very surprising if you take in account that so many months now Bakhmut is a frontline city and fighting going on inside the city and on outskirts for so many months. And yet again, when it comes to public statements from Zelensky and his associates, Kuleba, foreign minister of Ukraine, today also stated that they will not leave Bakhmut. They will not withdraw forces from Bakhmut. But yet again, actions that they are taking, all those evacuations from Chasiv Yar and Bakhmut indicates that they are preparing ground for withdrawal of forces. That's how I read this picture. And by the way, if you want to know more on a regular basis about news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets, you can subscribe on my Telegram channel. I do share tens of different news on daily basis. For example, just a few minutes ago, we had reported that Ukrainian forces shelled 2 villages in Kursk region of Russian Federation. So they are continuing to use any opportunity they get, Ukrainian forces, to hit deep inside Russian territory. So let's continue. And we have TASS news agency here, and yet again, Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Kuleba, who did say, Dmitry Kuleba, who stated that not a single country in the world yet promised to Zelensky's regime that they will deliver jet fighters to them. And of course, this is good. In one hand, this is good information. But in second hand, I have some doubts about this statement. Kuleba may just simply lying for this moment. Because if Western states not planning to deploy jet fighters on the battlefield, then why they are saying that they will train Ukrainian pilots? For what purposes then? In my understanding, this is a deception cloud that they are making, with these kind of statements that they're gonna train Ukrainian pilots, because of course they are planning to introduce to the battlefield Western jet planes. But everyone understands that those jets will be piloted by NATO pilots, and maintenance crew also will be from NATO member states. Yes, to have a possible deniability, they may dismiss that personnel and put on payroll of some PMC, some Western PMC, private military company. But After all, everyone will know that this is our Western soldiers and officers. And then I think it's quite possible that once Western jets will be introduced to this conflict, they will be operated from airfields in Poland and in Romania. And if that's the case, then of course those airfields will become legitimate target for Russian Federation. And if Russia does targets those airfields, we will have yet another increase in hostilities between the sides, which is quickly may escalate to a very dramatic story for entire world. Let's continue, and we have RIA Novosti news agency here, which is reporting that Russian side has reacted on statements, another crazy statements from Victoria Nuland, representative of U.S. State Department, high-ranking U.S. officials. That's officially, let's say. Because this time Nuland stated that Zelensky's regime has legitimate right, has all rights to conduct operations on Crimea soil, because all targets there will be legitimate. And I do understand that U.S. not recognizing the fact that Crimea is part of Russia now, but this kind of statements clearly shows attentions that Western elites have. They want harm Russia as much as possible. And that's why I'm quite sure they will eventually provide Ukraine with the long-range missiles, with the jet fighters, even if those jets will be piloted by Westerners. And main goal for them is to harm Russia as much as possible, prolong this conflict, harm Russia as much as possible, so that they will push Russian society to the breaking point when us, society here in Russia, may support regime change in Russia. But I should say, even though all of you probably know that I am not supporter of Putin and his party, I never was, and I will never support them, no matter what. I'm very critical of them, and I have my reasons for this. And first of all, because of lack of true fight against corruption. That's the main reason why I am so strongly opposing them. But even though I'm not their supporter, I will never, ever support any regime change in Russia. Just never. We have our institutions here. We have elections, and society can decide who should be president, who should be MP, and who should be official. Yes, maybe I have some questions about how fair and free elections are, or how much choice we really have when it comes to elections. Because me personally, I don't support no one from politicians, just no one. I don't see party that I can support, party that deserves my trust. But still, we have our institutions, and we will somehow manage how to deal with our internal topics without any Western or anybody's help. So, this assumption from the Western elites that they may push Russia, they may harm Russia, and then Russian society will somehow organize or support regime change, clearly shows you how much degradation is happening in Western think tanks. Because, of course, Nuland is like uneducated, stupid individual and her assumption, her opinion is based on analytics that she is getting from think tanks. And that's what's happening all around the Western world. And those think tanks are just, bunch of incompetent so-called experts that have no idea about mentality of Russian society and about basically nothing really. Because, no true expert will ever say that if you push Russia, then society will revolt against the regime. That's not, it's exactly the opposite, for God's sake. More you push Russia, more united society will come. But, as I said, Western think tanks are degraded in such a level that it's almost, you cannot take them seriously. But these ones, this not Christina, but Victoria Nuland is war criminal. She was directly involved in regime change, regime change that took place in 2014 in Ukraine, after which those Nazi elements took power. And she is involved in many crimes that U.S. elites committed all around the world. So, I have no respect to this individual, and I don't respect her word, but her statements clearly shows how ill-informed they are, really. Ill-educated and ill-informed they are. U.S. elites and Western elites in general. Let's continue. This is RIA Novosti reporting here that Deputy of Foreign Minister of Poland refused to answer on a question about yet another Polish unit that will be introduced to a battlefield in Ukraine under the name of Polish Legion. And I can understand why Polish officials don't want to talk about this, because of course those mercenaries in this Polish Legion will be soldiers and officers of Polish army. But as I said, for plausible deniability, they will be for some time dismissed from army and put on payroll of some PMC. And Poland does this kind of stuff so many months now that there is no surprise that there will be yet another Polish unit will be introduced to the battlefield. But more interesting is that, let me show you on the map. As you know, I did said quite a few times in my previous videos that I would not be surprised if Poland will send its forces to Ukraine and openly enter this conflict with Russia, or if they are, clever enough, they will conduct this kind of operation, with contact with Russian leadership, so that they may establish, for example, control over some western regions, including Lvov city, and if they have communication with Russian side, then Russian and Polish forces may try to avoid direct conflict, establishing some kind of dividing line. But nowadays, even some big names in military expertise are saying that Poland may planning not just to establish control over some western parts of Ukraine, but also to attack Belarus. And this is crazy, man. If this is true, and if Warsaw truly planning to not just take some parts of Ukraine, but to attack Belarus, then Polish elites should be even more dumb than I was thinking about them, because any introduction of Polish forces on Belarusian soil will provoke Russian response for which Poland is not ready and never will be ready. I hope this will not happen and Poland will stay in its borders and Polish forces officially will not enter this conflict. But if they do, it's maybe beginning of the end of Poland, modern Poland as a state. That's how badly they may suffer for this kind of criminal action of Polish government. But yet again, let's see. Let's see. Time will tell, man. What else? Let's continue. And this is RIA Novosti again, and we have this news is about statements that Colonel Douglas MacGregor did made, famous U.S. military expert. He was guest on Judge and Freedom channel, Judge Napolitano's channel. Great channel, by the way. I'm watching that channel quite frequently, and I recommend. Probably all of you are familiar with that channel. As with many other channels that are making good reporting on many interesting topics, including conflict in Ukraine. And Douglas MacGregor is making headlines in Russian media, as you can see, because in his yesterday's interview, he stated that Russian side is winning, basically, and West is losing in this fight with Russia, and West is losing in all fronts, on international relationships and on the front line as well. And I can agree with the point that Douglas MacGregor is making, because if anyone is isolated, for example, it must be West. Russia is definitely not isolated, but West, particularly after this conflict and after many revelations of Western involvement in this conflict, and just latest information about U.S. involvement, for example, U.S. and Norway's involvement in act of terrorism, international terrorism that they conduct, attacking Russian, German pipelines. In all these actions from Western elites, definitely forcing rest of the world outside of West to just stay away from the West as much as possible. And the rest of the world is much bigger than Western world. So if anyone is getting isolated, is Western states, really, and Western elites. It may not see a big deal for now, because still, we should recognize that Western elites have a huge deal of influence on many countries all around the world. But we are clearly seeing process that countries are trying to just step by step, but stay away from the West, and they have good reasons to do so. So Douglas MacGregor does make great comments about. He's a military expert, so his judgment is of course important, and he does makes together with I forgot name. How could they? Scott Ritter, yes. Scott Ritter, another great expert, military expert, who's also very active and, giving us their point of view about what is going on in this conflict, and not just about that, in general. And many other experts, of course, many other experts. So yeah, they are making headlines in Russian media too, as you can see. So it's interesting. This is TASS news agency, and this information definitely gonna be interesting for Western think tanks, so-called think tanks, and Western elites ruling class, because we have latest poll numbers here, according to which trust rating of Putin is up to 80%, 79.1% approval rating of Putin. It's just a huge number, and I do remember times when Putin's approval rating was somewhere around 60s, and as you can see, after special beginning of special military operation, his approval rating is rising, because that's how society here are reacting on in dangers that are Russia exposed from Western world. More aggressive West will become, more united society will become in Russia. That's why I'm saying, man, even people like me who not support Putin and his party, even we will never ever go to the streets to demonstrate for some regime change or anything like that, man. Just no way, man. Impossible. We have our ways how to deal with the problems that we are encountering, and we will deal with it without anybody's help from outside. So this is huge number, man. 79.1. I'm not happy about it, because this means that next election, next presidential election, if Putin will uh, uh, if Putin will not retire, then he may again become president. And I'm not happy about it, because I'm not happy with their policies. Because mainly because of the lack of real fight against corruption and corrupt officials. And this is big issue for me. I just hate corruption and corrupt officials. I think corrupt officials are traitors, and they should be treated by law and by society as traitors. And I don't see that Putin and his government is doing enough to fight corruption. But yet again, what can I do, man? 79.1% of society are in support of Putin, and I should respect this, isn't it? That's democracy. At least that's what was the democracy in Western world, that majority is making decisions and minority is respecting this. But West is changed, man. Big time. Sadly, and not in a good way, which is sad. Let's continue. We have a RBK news agency which is reporting that U.S. officials in the U.S. Ministry of Trade are saying that sanctions on Russia will eventually work, because those sanctions are not guillotine to straight away cut the head off and just deal with issues. But yet again, these guys are just incompetent, man. These guys are incompetent. Look at Iran, man. How many decades Iran is under sanctions? Or how many decades Cuba is under sanctions? Illegal sanctions from the West. And what they achieve? People hate Western world. People in Iran and in Cuba, they just hate Western states, Western elites, not the states themselves, but Western elites, because all those sanctions, I mean, they are, introducing sanctions means that they want to harm society. They want to harm ordinary people. And, if Iran and Cuba was able to cope with the US sanctions for decades, man, it's not surprising that in Russia we don't really even feel these sanctions. I mean, we just don't really care. There are some issues, yes, with the economy, and there will be some issues with the economy, but in general, life is okay in Russia. And I did said that many times before. Life is okay. One day I may go and some just closest supermarket here. I may go in closest grocery store and just make video how grocery stores are looking after years basically of US sanctions. They are full, man. You can buy anything you want. It's difficult to make some money because in general wages are not that high really, but you can survive. So I'm quite sure Western elites are mistaken if they think that with sanctions or with some other pressure they will somehow manage to organize some regime change here. No, man. Let's continue. We have a Kommersant newspaper here, which is, let me see how long this video is already. Oh, it's 32 minutes, man. Okay. I will try to quickly go through headlines at least. So we have a statement from deputy of head of Russian parliament, Pyotr Tolstoy, who said that for now Russian government is not supporting idea of Russia leaving international trade organization, World Trade Organization, WTO, even though there is some differences in opinion between some parliamentarians and government officials. And this is interesting topic because if Russia leaves WTO, this makes WTO less important, truly less important, and I do support this idea basically. Yes, there will be some difficulties for beginning in trade with between Russia and some other countries, but after all, WTO is run by Western elites, and I don't think Russia should be in any organization that Western elites have decision-making power. And in WTO and almost in all international organizations, almost, because they are now created and getting stronger some alternative organizations like BRICS, which is great, and the Western world has no influence almost on BRICS, but there is some other organizations like WTO, for example, or International Monetary Fund or World Bank. They are run by Washington and London, basically. Maybe Brussels has some influence. Basically all these organizations are run by Washington and London, and I don't think I don't think that Russia should be involved in this game play with West. Let's cut all ties with West and until Western elites will become adequate again, just stay away from them. I don't want any confrontation with West or anything like that, but we should stay far away from West because right now they are danger for us for entire world. That's why I did share this information, because it seems like not just I think that Russia should leave WTO and all other international organizations that Western elites has control over. Russian parliamentarians are thinking about it, probably some government officials also. And let's see how we'll develop situation. But I hope Russia will just stay away from West and Western organizations as much as possible. Let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that today Putin will receive information from Gazprom. Gazprom is a 30 years old company, and they are celebrating this data, or data, how we say it. So Putin will receive information about Gazprom's plans on future, and he will talk with heads of Gazprom, and I hope he will give them order to stop exporting gas to Europe. I know this will not happen, but at least I can hope, because it's an issue. No matter how much Russia needs money from the West that it receives for gas, for example, that exported to European countries. But it's a matter of principles and matter of values. What values Russia truly supporting? And I see problem when Russian side still exporting energy to West, which is basically in war with us. I just, I don't understand this. I had even some. I did receive some critiques in few days ago from some subscribers, because they were saying that Gazprom is a huge taxpayer in Russia, and more gas Gazprom will sell, more taxes will be paid, and then Russia will have more opportunities to deal with some social issues and the rest of it. I do understand this, but we should always be we should always stay with our principles and values. This is more important. We can live without we can live with some difficulties, we can deal with some difficulties. That's how we are built society here. Difficulties are not scaring us, and that's why I'm saying we should treat with we should be always on the right side. We should always act with morality and with principles. That's all I'm trying to say, really. And I see issue with Gazprom and Russian government's policies that Russia should continue to supply Europe with energy. I don't see it reasonable, So let's continue. And we have statement from head of finance ministry, Silvanov, who said that Russian budget, federal budget, will finance everything that Russian state has obligated for. So there is no issues with the finances, which is as I said, I just said that life is okay in Russia. There are some difficulties, of course, man. low and middle income families are, everywhere in this world, man, had to deal with some issues everywhere, not just in Russia, isn't it? In Europe too, in America too, in USA, for example, just everywhere. But in general, life is okay, as I said, and the Russian economy is doing well because the world is a much bigger place than just Western states, and that's why I'm saying, that Russia should cut off its economical relationship with the West and diversify its exports. It will take time, but eventually, all Russian gas and oil and the rest of it will be sold to other places. World is big place, man. World is huge. Let's continue. Let's continue. And yet again, this is RIA Novosti, and we have information from China, where China Daily newspaper did a right article in which pointed out that with sanctions, Western elites basically help Russia to diversify its economy and to diversify its energo exports. That's exactly what I was just saying. And the Russian economy will do better when Western economies will start feeling this isolation from Russia more and more in coming years, and it's exactly the truth. It's it is what it is. For example, what now we have information that gas prices are falling on the spot, spot market. Gas prices are falling in Europe, but I don't think that gas prices are really falling when it comes to utility bills, right? And the energo companies are making some huge profits. That's true. When ordinary citizens, particularly middle and low income households, are struggling little by little. I'm not saying that some devastation is happening in Europe, of course not. But even in comment sections, I do see your comments, and many of you are, articulating that yes, little by little, but these sanctions make life harder for ordinary citizens in Europe. As this trend will sadly continue because that's how Western elites are acting, really. What else, man? This is gonna be last news for this video, and we have here RT is reporting that according to Russian ambassador in India, Denis Alipov, yet again, this war of sanctions that the West imposed on Russia has some forced Russia to deal with the issues of diversification of its economy, and some great achievements have been made. For example, in trade with China and India. In this case, he's Russian ambassador in India, and we have numbers. Russian trade with India rose by up to $35 billion, and last year, and this year this number may even double. Who knows? And China and India together, these two countries are colossal in every way possible. Economies of these countries are just huge. So yeah, I'm all for that, man. All for diversification, and you know, let's stay away from Western world. And one day, Western societies will somehow manage to put in power some adequate people, and then let's return to old days when we can have a proper relationships with European states or USA. So yes, this is it. This is it for now. I hope you find this video interesting. I hope you find this video interesting, and if so, please push, hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, or any other platform that you are active on. If you can, and if you want to, you can donate too, and that way support channel. I will be very grateful in any case for your attention and support. Thank you very much once again, and take care.